The planets don't appear in the sky in a willy-nilly kind of way everywhere. They inhabit a band which is, roughly speaking, in alignment with our equator. So if you extend out the equator into space and create something called a celestial equator, then you imagine an angle 23 degrees up and 23 degrees down, a bit more than that. Then that can be conceived as a band in the sky all the way around the Earth. And from the Earth's perspective, the planets stay within that bound, pretty much. It's quite extraordinary that they should, but they do. And yet some of them just go outside of that band now and again, a little bit. And those that do that, not all of them, they're called out of bounds planets when they go out of that range. So the range is 23 degrees, 28 minutes. It's anything over 27 minutes, 23 degrees, 27 minutes. North or south, that would be called out of bounds. Now, astrologers, they're always looking for the meanings that we can perceive in these celestial phenomena, the position of a planet in relation to other things going on. And what they've noticed is that the out of bounds planets in a chart seem to make a difference. Not everybody has a planet which is out of bounds. Maybe half of the people don't. And only about 28% would have one planet. So we're talking about a relatively small number of people have two or more. And in fact, those people who have got four have the maximum. Nobody can have more than 4 planets out of bounds. And there's only about 1 in 100 people would have 4 planets out of bounds. It so happens that I'm one of those. And so I've got some personal experience of what it's like to have out of bounds qualities. And generally speaking, it's not thought that these are bad or good. It's just that they're a little bit more exaggerated in their qualities. And there's a sense of freedom requirement here, a sense of being on the edges of society with any out of bounds behaviour. That's what it means. You know, there's the boundaries of normality and acceptable behaviour, and these planets, they behave outside of that. So even if you've got one planet out of bounds, sometimes you're going to be seen as a little bit not okay, a little bit outside of what is acceptable. And if you've got multiple ones, that becomes more and more likely. So in my case, I've never been able to fit anywhere. Wherever I go, I'm always marginal. And I always have been. I've never known anything else. I'm always the oddball, whatever I'm doing. And it kind of goes hand in hand with odd behaviour, these out of bounds planets. But along with that, it goes with creative thinking. And those two things go together as well. So I'm going to go through the qualities associated with those planets which do go out of bounds. And let's start with the moon. This is frequently out of bounds. A lot of people have got an out of bounds moon. And Oprah Winfrey is a good example, very good example. There's a deeply felt need for freedom and the ability to inspire others, good emotional intelligence, excellent intuition, which is trusted. And you get to understand yourself and other people quite well, and have your own sense of conscience as well. However, you can have very strange feelings and abnormal thoughts, a disregard for the rules and mood swings, destructive habits, and not really interested in a tea and sympathy kind of approach to life. Now, if we look at the out of bounds Mercury situation, and here we've got Elvis Presley as an example. New ways of thinking, especially eloquent, charismatic style of speech, good writers, teachers and speakers, intelligent, and a talent for using media. However, a bizarre process of thinking, hearing imaginary voices, it suggested, hyperbole and exaggeration, a tendency to being misunderstood and misunderstanding others, obsessions, fixations, compulsions, missing out on the subtle signals, and perhaps even speech problems. Now, when Venus is out of bounds, as it was for Charlie Chaplin, exceptional grace and charm, a romantic nature, charisma, magnetism, popularity, talents in the arts, especially musicianship and painting, acting as well, no doubt, a keen sense of beauty, an ability to entertain, seductive and sensual nature, which could turn to lust or excessive indulgence in body pleasures, envy, highly materialistic and greedy, sexuality outside of accepted norms, snobbery and grandness and extravagance. Out-of-bound Mars might be associated with strongly ambitious people who are driven, bold and courageous, supremely self-confident, strong masculinity, physical stamina and vitality, willpower and passion, adventure and daring, leadership ability. However, can be bullying and aggressive, violent, brutish, rash, impulsive, becoming angry quite quickly, selfish, sexually dominant, excessively forceful and belligerent. And in this case, the out-of-bound Mars is shared by both Picasso and Frida Kahlo. These were both artists who went outside of the boundaries of expressing their way of seeing the world. Jupiter is very rarely out of bounds indeed, but it does go, and Nat King Cole had one. So did Enrico Fermi. He's kind of an atomic scientist with a bit of a reputation. And it's said that one's public recognition is a bit remarkable with this. Lots of popularity and perhaps even sporting ability and an emphatic inclination to travel. But to be honest, there's so few examples for us to study with a Jupiter out of bounds that much of this is speculative. When Uranus is out of bounds, it is so for a long period of time, a number of years. And so we're talking about a small generation of people. And here we have Salvador Dali, Richard Branson, that kind of age group. And they tend to be eccentric and bizarre in appearance, unbridled, strange behaviour, a very strong spirit of experimentation, committed to invention and discovery, imaginative and creative, very insistent upon freedom, and rebellious, revolutionary behaviour. Now Pluto, when it's out of bounds, it stays out of bounds for a very, very long time indeed, 1938 to 1953, for example. And we can't really say that there's any particular personality associated with this. The characteristics of personality are so varied. This bunch of people, anyone born between 1938 and 1953 has a Pluto out of bounds. So you can't say what... I mean, I've read on some websites these people are excessively this, that and the other. They're highly sexual, enraged, violent people, godfathers. It's nonsense. A whole generation of people, 38 to 53, that's 15 years worth of babies. They can't all be like that. So be a bit careful when you read astrological summaries of behaviour. Just think about the reasonableness of what you're reading. But we had Elton John, we had Paul McCartney, who were born within that time. These are war babies. They would have been brought up to know danger. They would have been brought up to know hunger and lack. And that changes the personality, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. And when they became of a certain age, they were around for the 60s and the 70s musical revolutions, and the 80s and the 90s when microchip technology started to become the thing. The internet was born. This is a group of people that made a powerful impact upon the evolution of civilization of our species. And the space age, of course, that was included. No, I think it's fair to say that these out-of-bounds planets make a person more likely to be odd, to be at variance with society. And that can go both ways. They're not particularly bad or good. There's as many out-of-bounds criminals as there are not out-of-bounds criminals, and their inventors the same. So it's not black and white what it means. But we do see a tendency for people to disregard the rules. So that can be illegal behaviour. It can be antisocial behaviour. It can be unrestricted behaviour, like Einstein, for example. You go beyond the bounds of things, and you have some reach into cosmic realities. It's not really the same when you're unbridled. You can perceive everything differently. And I think this is the important thing. These people with lots of out-of-bounds planets will be perceiving things in their own special way. And some of them will be impactful, and some of them will not. But if you have a number of out-of-bounds planets, you'll probably identify with this whole idea of being a little bit odd, a little bit on the margins of society. And I think most people would like to think that about themselves. But when you look at your behaviour and how you behave differently from other people, and how you feel differently from what is there in the media as normal, you kind of realise that you are a little bit strange. And you probably think, well, strange is good.